Hi, you remember that contour pendants are the latest fashion accessory, don't you? Once again, I decided to use them with polymer clay, but this time in a bit different way, being inspired by these wreaths. To make them, I took this Fimo clay. I began to like this material more and more. The day before, to practice a bit, I made a little bouquet on this base. It took me 2 hours to make it. I think I'll do it faster today, because I got the hang of it yesterday. It was comfortable for me to work on the sheet of paper where I left these little pieces of clay, which you can still use in our work with tiny elements. Speaking about the tools, nothing special and new will be used actually. Basically, all the contour pendants of any geometrical or unique shape will suit us. For instance, flowers in such a flask will look quite interesting. I also found these ready-made minimalistic accessories, which are suitable for further decor. The bracelet and pendants are already with chains. First, I made the base, on which further I will put my flowers. At first, I wanted to make it look asymmetrical, but in such a case, the pendant would hang unevenly. It would be the complete asymmetry, so I changed the position of the vase to the bottom. I stick some clay to the second base in the same way as with the previous one. I cut off some clay on the back in order to further remove this element and glue it back. But I suddenly realized that, as it is not a circle, even if I covered it with clay, everything would stick pretty well. The thing is that if you stick clay around a circle, in case it unsticks a little, it would slide back and forth like a bead, and we don't need this at all. And if we glue around the edges, it won't look nice. That is the reason why I started to cut off the clay behind on the circle, as well as on the rhombus. But then I realized that the shape was different, so nothing would slide on rhombus. Anyway, there are 2 variants, to make as I suggested, or to stick a thin piece of clay. Speaking about sculpting flowers, there are many photo tutorials how to make tiny flowers. I don't have various cutters for petals, so today I'm gonna show you several simple ideas. Ella from the previous video about polymer clay showed me how to make these little roses. You'll need for this such a cone which we're going to cut. The cut-off piece usually sticks to the blade and it really helps to cut off the next piece of the same width. But as initially we have a cone, the next piece will have a bigger diameter, and that's what we need. And from these pieces, you can make a ball and then make a pancake, so your clay becomes soft and pliable because of the warmth of your hands. But you can actually skip this step and make a pancake at once. Roll the first petal into a spiral and then stick the other petals to it. Using a tool, you can open a bit some of the petals. All the following pancakes you should stick partially on the previous. And when you're satisfied with the result, you can press it a bit below and spin, so that it will open more, and then, using a blade, you cut the excess, to glue the flower to the base later. To avoid deformation at this stage, your blade must be extremely sharp. It must cut and mustn't press the flower. And now we can make the same but way much smaller flowers. By the way, using one method, you can make different roses. The difference lies in how to stick the petals. If you stick them on the same level, you'll have one flower. If you stick your petals higher and higher every time, there will be another flower, more closed one. If you stick petals lower and lower, it will be more open. On this ring around the big flowers, I placed some baby ones, which look quite pretty and are super easy to make. A tiny spiral bud is made from a flattened sausage. Roll and voila! And one more flower I made after I'd messed up for the 10th time with opening a flower nicely. Of course, I will try 10 more times to achieve the right result, but next time. I roll a sausage and make a hole above, and then start to widen it in a circular motion. Then I poke it doing such movements, and the result is something like this. This little flower completes the composition and looks quite pretty. The same situation with the leaves, of course. I prefer to pull quite a big part, slide the tool down, and then cut off a leaf of the needed size. Be very careful with the blade. I think this variant is great in case when flowers' petals hide the bottom side of the leaf. You can also press and pull a little ball to make a leaf, vary the size and roll and bend it differently. And you can play with color as well. For instance, I have an olive green and bright green. Having bright and dark colors allows you to create many shades. I mix two green colors. Part of the main color I leave as it is, and to the second part I add a dark one. The color I got I split in two and add a light color to one of the parts, and then dark again. And you can also add a color like pink, purple, blue, why not? And to the dark branch I also add a bright color, a dark color, and then add another different one. And you can continue like that to infinity. I like to keep my bases in sauce containers. I think for this project I'll get the second one for green palette clays. I prefer this way of preservation because this container is sealed, so your clay won't dry in it. Well, I finally made these little guys, and now it's time for the most interesting part. I will make a bouquet. There are two possible approaches. For example, you may make lots of flowers as I did and then make a composition out of them. Or you can make your flowers gradually and glue them to the base, understanding where you need more flowers, what size should there be, or color or shape, and keep making them gradually as needed. I found my piece of carton for clay, which is already my favorite, and started to work on this kind of surface. To give the flowers a secure fix, I use Fimo gel. This liquid gel might be used to soften clay and stick the parts of clay together, and it will be more secure than to stick clay to clay. The flowers in this case are small and quite fragile, so it will be challenging to secure clay without gel. First I place the leaves and the biggest flowers, and then I place the little ones between them. The same way as in the jar with stones of different size. Into the small gaps between the flowers, I place some tiny pieces of green clay. Leaves won't fit in there, however, this greenery will freshen the composition. Now, if you want, you can remove extra clay from the bottom. For instance, I simply cut it off using a blade. I do love the process of shading, so I couldn't skip this step. Gently, I added some shade to the sides of leaves. I made a deepening for the ring using my stationary knife. Preheat the oven at the temperature of clay baking, always follow the instruction on the packaging, and put your accessory into the oven. While it bakes, I take my round pendant. If you don't like the way your elements slide down, put something under them, which might be baked as well as the accessory. In this case, I took several sheets of thick paper because I had only them at hand. These are the bits and pieces from one of the previous projects. If you want to make a ring like this one, mind that it's better to put some clay inside the base with curved edges, so it will be baked like this, and this piece will hold the whole decor on itself. Plus it will be securely attached to the base from the inside. I also use Fimo gel to attach the flowers. Here is the result. The last thing to do is to glue this decor to the rhombus. And by the way, it might be not only a pendant, but an earring as well. I hope this video was interesting and useful for you, and I managed to add a bit of spring vibe. I also express my appreciation to my sponsors for their support. I love all of you this much. Bye!